Hey amigos, in this video I would like to go over the changes from the first version of Polyphenom to this new version, Polyphenom version 2. There's tons of changes, improvements, fixes, additions, features all over the place, and we're going to go through them and just show the changes. If you want to hear sound examples and to actually experience a little bit more about the synth, then just check out the other videos and promotions and SoundCloud links and all of that. So we're just gonna go over all the new features and just mention them. The first thing I would like to show, on the top right over here, you can click the question mark, and this will load the new manual for Polyphenom 2. Over on the bottom is a changelog with all the changes. So the first batch of changes to look at is the LFOs have been pretty much revisited and revised. The first thing that we did was on Polyphenom 1, you had sine, saw, try, and square. Now you have sample and hold and glide as well as the shapes for all the LFOs. The second thing is in sync mode, you can now go up to 1/64. On Polyphenom 1, you could go only up to 1/32. The third thing is that now you can retrigger all of your LFOs. This is something that probably should have actually already been on Polyphenom 1, but it's finally here with Polyphenom 2. Proper retriggering LFOs, and LFO in general has been a little bit optimized to use just a little bit less CPU and be a bit better, give a bit better performance. The second major thing is in the subtractive section, you had basically just a choice of sine, saw, try, and square as your wave shapes. Now you actually have wavetable oscillators instead of like these analog style oscillators. Each one of these sub-os can now load up to 100 cycle wavetables, and the synth comes with wavetables loaded, but you can also load your own wavetables, and the synth also comes with extra wavetables that you can of its own that you can load. So for example, just loaded on I guess it was already loaded there. So let's go to another one, and basically you can load any wavetable that you want. The details for what cycle sizes and what kind of files it expects are in the manual. But this is really a big addition. Really opens up the sound, because now it's true hybrid, right? It used to be a hybrid of additive and a little bit of FM with what's going on over here and some subtractive, and now you can say it even utilizes wavetables as well. So this is pretty cool and pretty huge addition. The second thing in the subtractive, well, it's not exactly in the subtractive section, but you also have a noise source. So you can mix it in as much as you want, or you can have it take over the entire subtractive section by basically it's a crossfading. So over all the way to the left, the noise is closed, and the oscillators are what is output from this section. And if it's all the way open, then noise will be output from this section, and not the subtractive oscillators. And of course, anything in the middle is a mix. So that's been added as well. Again, allows for many new colors of sound. You can do really just noise-based things if you want with the effects and everything. Filter types added. This is another pretty huge addition and change to the filter. Before you had just a low-pass filter. Now you can bypass the filter, put it on low-pass, high-pass, band-pass, or notch filter. And you also have, this was missing on Polyphenom 1. Now you have proper ability to use keyboard tracking within the filter circuit. So this is again another huge addition. You were limited to just low pass, and now you can do all sorts of other stuff with filtering to the sound, and then the keyboard tracking is another pretty big addition to get more dynamic things going on. So that's for the filter. And next thing I would like to look at is the FM, just something small. If you go and look over here in the FM section, so the built-in FM sort of modulator was a sine oscillator, which is still there, but now you can also put it in a triangle mode, and then the FM source will utilize a triangle instead of a sine. And this again, it brings some level of new dynamics into play, because you have another sort of FM tone aside from the sine, and it's still, being a triangle, it's still not so aggressive, and it still synergizes well with the additive section. So you have kind of like two flavors as opposed to just the sine. Now you have a sine and a triangle, and they sound and behave a little bit differently. So that's another pretty major thing. All these things, again, even up till now, if you add them up, it's really a whole new synth almost. We also added a high pass cut button on the main output. We like to do this on our synth. It's really a mild high pass on around 30 Hertz. Just cleans up the low end. Even if you're doing bass sounds, it actually brings out the actual frequency of your bass sound by cleaning a little bit of the low end. But again, this is optional. You can turn it on, you can leave it off. If you feel like you're losing something on your low end and you're doing something in particular, you can just turn it on, turn it off. If you feel that it kind of makes your sound cleaner and neater, then just turn it on. You know, it's basically up to you. I actually really like to use this even on bass sounds. I think it's a great feature, personally. Well, bipole controls, where it makes sense. This is something one of the reviewers brought up. We think he was absolutely correct. For example, on the fine controls, you used to not be able to double click and center them, and now you can. We think, you know, it's a cosmetic thing, but I think as users you're probably expecting this behavior, and we agree, and now it behaves properly. And it's not just the fine controls, but everything that is bipolar. So let's say a crossfader, if you double click it, and all these pan guys over here, you can just double click them to center them. Everything that is bipolar, basically. Oops, why am I going over there? And of course, now we removed that little pan to center button that was over here. It's not needed anymore. You can just double click it. There's a new deep randomization feature to the additive section. This is something many of you have asked for, actually. You can randomize all the elements in the additive section, and you have control over what gets randomized, basically. So the various things are the volume, the frequency, the pan, and the modulation amount. Now, if just volume is turned on, for example, and I'll click random, then as you can see, it'll randomize, you know, whatever page I'm on, all of the volumes. If I click frequency, it'll randomize the frequency multipliers as well as the volume. If I add in pan and mod, then it will do it on all of them. The same goes for the reset. Let's say I have, let's reset everything, but let's say I make some sort of randomization. It all sounds pretty neat to me, but I just don't want these modulations over here. I forgot to somehow, I don't want to click random again because I have what I want set up. I just want to reset these guys, so I can click to turn off the rest of the guys and just keep mod on and reset, and it'll reset just the modulators. Same with the random. Let's say I want to now, I like this. I don't want it reset, but I just want to play with the randomization, so I just keep mod on and randomize. There's also the depth, the range of the modulation. So it's up to 100, which would be the full knob. Let's say now it's just around 1/10 of the knob, right? And you can see that the randomizers are not going all the way anymore. And the last option, maybe it's the best to show it on the volume, actually. If I go over here and click this, then I can go between free and scaled mode. Free means that if I click random based on the range, every one of these is randomized between, you know, 0 and 100, between all the way closed and all the way full, somewhere in the middle. So you'll have stuff like, for example, as you can see, the 8th one here is really all the way almost to the top. If I click here and click scale, oops, and then randomize, then everything will be scaled based on where the randomization of the first one was. Now, every now and then, now this is not a hard scaling on purpose, so every now and then you'll have, as you can see over here, number 4 is a little bit more than number 3, right? And then, again, over here, number 8 is a little bit more than number 7, and a little bit more than these guys. And this is on purpose, but you can see a general, you know, going towards the bottom. And this kind of helps to, let's say you want kind of a more natural sound, right? You don't want to click random and have like these crazy high, you know, higher harmonics really on a loud volume. But again, it really depends on the sound. Sometimes it's whatever you want. You know, we just give you both of these options. Both of them are neat to play with. So it's a pretty deep randomization section, and again, you can reset everything if you want. Again, another big addition. And again, over here, just mentioned deep randomization, deep reset. The GUI resize is something we decided to remove. It's not really appropriate when you're not with a with vector graphics, and we feel users weren't really using it. There's a new, really cool new preset manager. in the past in Polyphenom 1, you used to click here and you would load a bank of presets. And that bank, if you wanted, let's say the bank, I think it was 127, and if you wanted to load another bank, then you'd have to specifically click a button to load that bank. Now the preset system is just totally dynamic. It takes all the folders from the synth app data folder, all the details are in the manual, but as you can see, there's no real banks. It loads everything that you put into it. You can save a preset on the fly. So for example, if I rename a preset and go here, then the preset is already inside this whole thing. So you can actually, it's really dynamic. You can name folders, you can do everything on the fly, and the preset system will be updated with all your presets. And there are a ton of presets with this synth, including 2 DLC packs, which are for extra payment, but you also get hundreds of presets with just buying the synth. If you want extra presets, you can buy the DLC packs, which are great as well. So that's another big addition. This preset system really allows you to do so much more and kind of interact with the synth in a much better way than the old bank-based system. Some GUI enhancements, some code cleanups. We dropped the standalone mode. We feel that supporting the VST is just the best way, and that's most of you users, maybe more than 95% of the users, just use the VST plugin. The manual, as you saw, is revised. One small thing to note is the V1 presets will not load on V2. But again, if you own Polyphenom, then nothing stops you from loading Polyphenom 1 and enjoying the presets from Polyphenom 1. And with Polyphenom 2, you get a whole set of hundreds of new presets with Polyphenom 2. So this is the majority of additions, at least the stuff that you can see with your eyes. Like I mentioned, behind the scenes, there's a lot of extra work cleaning up the code and making it a little bit more responsive and a little bit more performance friendly and all of that. So it's a huge update. Check out Polyphenom 2.